PSATs, we left off on two-way frequency tables. So let's go ahead and finish this up so you can do your Khan Academy. All right, so two-way frequency table. A two-way table is a way to display frequencies, and remember frequencies mean count, right? Frequencies for two categorical variables. So two categorical variables. One category is represented by rows, a second is represented by columns. It doesn't matter which way you want to do it. All right, so here is an example. We're going to fill it in together. All right, so we had a survey with 60 people. 30 were adults, 30 were teenagers, and they were asked what type of movie they prefer to watch, and their answers were recorded. All right, so the two variables that we have here in this chart are age, adult or teen, and movie preference. Rom-com, action, horror. So I've got two different types of variables, and within the variables I've got two categories for age and three categories for movies. A two-way table represents data for two categorical variables, and these are my variables. Age, I'm going to say age category, because age is typically a quantitative variable, but I have two categories, right? Adult or teen. All right, so we're dealing with the teenagers first. So 6 teenagers prefer rom-com, so let's put the 6 right here. 16 teenagers prefer action, and 8 teenagers prefer horror. So how many teenagers were total in the survey? 30, but we can check our work by adding these 3. Yep. All right, now let's fill in the adults. 12 adults prefer romantic comedies, 14 prefer action, and 4 prefer horror. If I add up those 3 numbers, I should also get 30 because I know that 30 adults were surveyed. All right, now I have my total column on the bottom for these, right? What's my total number of people surveyed that like romantic comedies? That's 18. How many like action? 30. How many like horror? 12. All right, so this column and this row should sum up to the same number. So 30 plus 30 is 60. I've surveyed 60 people total. Let's make sure my movie totals add up to that. So 18 plus 30 plus 12, 60. I surveyed 60 people. Here's my breakout. I had 2 categorical variables. I had age category, either adult or teen, and then movie preference. So that's what a two-way table is and how we fill it out. Okay, so now we're going to calculate 3 different types of relative frequencies: marginal, joint, and conditional. I'm going to get a different color highlighter for each one. So marginal, joint, and conditional. Remember, frequency means count, and relative frequency is a proportion or percentage, however you are expressing your answer, as a decimal, as a percentage, so proportion or percentage. Frequency is just the count, right? All right, so the marginal relative frequency, and y'all are going to kill me because I put we need to switch these 2 definitions. I'm sorry, I was making changes to these notes from last year, and I thought it would be better to have marginal first, and I forgot to move the definitions. I'm sorry, you guys. This one should go here, this one should go here. So we're looking down here for marginal, and I'll just go ahead and highlight this yellow so that you know it goes with marginal. All right. So marginal relative frequency is the ratio of a frequency in a particular category and the total number of values. So the main thing I want you to know here about marginal relative frequency is that it is one variable only. One variable only. Remember, our two-way table shows 2 variables. Marginal relative frequency is asking about one variable only. So here, what's the marginal relative frequency of adults in the survey? So we're only talking about one variable, right? The age category. So we're talking about adults in the survey. So what I'm going to do is look at the adult total, which is 30, over my grand total, which is 60. I know that something is a marginal relative frequency if I'm just looking at one specific category. Here we were looking at the category of adults, like the age range. We don't care about movie preference at all. So when you do 30 divided by 60, you get 0.5. So you can write it like that, or you can write it as 50%. So you could see it expressed either way, as a decimal proportion or as a percentage. All right, I want you to go ahead and try the next one, marginal relative frequency of people who preferred action movies. So go ahead and try that next one. All right, this time, instead of asking us about the age category, we're only asking about movie preference. That's it. So we're going to take the action movie total and put it over the grand total. My action total was 30, and my grand total was 60, so I end up getting the same exact thing, 30 over 60, which is 0.5 or 50%. All right, what if I asked you for the marginal relative frequency of people who prefer romantic comedies? Go ahead and try that, the marginal relative frequency of just people who prefer romantic comedies. All right. Now let's try joint relative frequency. So remember, I switched the definitions, so the definition for joint is up here. I apologize. If you have the Word document and you're typing into it, you can just go ahead and switch them. All right. The ratio of the sum of the joint relative frequency over the total number of data values. So with a joint relative frequency, it has the word joint in it because it's two variables. So you're looking at the box of the intersection of two variables over the grand total. All right? So, joint relative frequency of adults who preferred horror movies. So this time, I remember I told you that we have two variables, adults and horror. Let's find the intersection of adults and horror. Adults, horror. My intersection number is 4, so that's my numerator. So I'm going to put intersection of adults and horror, so we know how we got this, over my grand total, which is 60. All right, so I do 4 divided by 60. We'll round to 3 decimal places, 0.067. And as a percent, I know that's 6.7%. All you're doing is dividing. All right, take a minute and try the next one on your own. All right, so for this one, our intersection now is going to be teens and rom-coms. All right, so the intersection of teens and rom-coms is going to be 6 over my grand total, which is 60. So I'm going to put intersection here, and I'm going to put grand total down here. All right. 6 divided by 60 gives me 0.1, which is 10%. All right, so marginal has to do with one variable only, and you're just taking it from the total column. So the total over the grand total. I'm going to put that category total over grand total. That's what marginal is. Joint is intersection over grand total. All right. So what you notice about these two that they have in common is that the denominator for both is the grand total. Well, that is not the case for conditional. So conditional relative frequency is the ratio of a joint relative frequency, so an intersection, and a related marginal relative frequency. So what I'm going to say for this is intersection over condition total. All right, let's see what that means. All right, so with this, they're always going to give you a condition. The condition is going to be read like this. Of the teens surveyed, or given the teens surveyed, what is the relative frequency who prefer action movies? So when they give you a condition like this, you know that you're only looking at one column. So of the teens surveyed, you're only looking at one column or one row. So here, teens is the only thing we're looking at. So what I'm going to do is block out everything that's not teens so we can get a better look at it. All right, so here's my teens. We want to know, of the teens surveyed, what is the relative frequency of those who prefer action movies? All right, so let's look and see which number represents action. All right, so the 16 represent action. All right, now what's my condition total? Which one of these numbers represents my total number of teens? The 30 does. So I put that on the bottom. So I'll go ahead and move these so you can see them again. So we have 16 over 30, and 16 is basically my intersection of teens and action, right? If you look back, it's my intersection of teens and action over my category total, which was 30. Condition total, I'm sorry. Condition total. Conditional relative frequency takes some practice, which is why you have so many Khan Academies on it. All right, so 16 divided by 30 is going to be 0.53, or 53%. All right, go ahead and pause the video and try the next one on your own. All right, given that a person preferred horror movies, what is the relative frequency who were adults? So think for a second, what's the condition? Is the condition horror movies, or is the condition adults? Given that, so you could highlight or underline that condition. So the condition's actually horror movies. So that's the only column that I want to look at. I want to block everything else out because it doesn't matter for my conditional relative frequency. So I'm just looking at horror. All right, the question is, given that a person prefers horror movies, what is the relative frequency that they were adults? So which number represents adults? It looks like the 4 does. So 4 is going to go on top, and then my condition total is going to go on the bottom. And my condition total is represented by that 12, because 4 plus 8 is 12. So if we were to write this out, we would say that 4 is the intersection of horror and adult, the two variables that were mentioned, and then 12 is my condition total. Remember, condition was horror movies. All right, so 4 divided by 12 gives me 0.33, or 33%. All right, let's do some more practice. All right, marginal relative frequency. Use the two-way table below to find the marginal relative frequency of students who are seniors. All right, so remember, marginal relative frequency is one variable only. And we're going to use the, I'll call it variable total, or category total, over grand total. All right, so let's figure out what. Use the two-way table to find the marginal relative frequency of students who are seniors. All right, my variable total, the only variable that we're talking about this problem, is seniors. So let's look at the senior total, which would be 42. So my variable total is 42 over my grand total, which is 60. All right, so 42 divided by 60 gives me 0.7, so you could write it like that, or you could write 70%, meaning that 70% of the people in the survey were seniors. All right, I want you to go ahead and try number 8. Remember, variable total over grand total. So grand total is easy to fill in. The variable total is the variable that's mentioned in the question. So go ahead and give this one a try. All right, so the marginal relative frequency of students who prefer sugar cookies. So I don't care if you're a senior or a junior, I am talking about sugar cookies. So my variable total, my variable is sugar cookies. Variable total is 35, and my grand total is 100. All right, so you can see it written either way. All right, the joint relative frequency. Remember, the formula for this, the mini formula that I kind of made up, is intersection over grand total. So we're looking for an intersection between the two variables over the grand total. We can already fill in the grand total because we know what it is, right? It's that total at the very bottom. How many people were surveyed? So 60. All right, so using the two-way frequency table, find the joint relative frequency of students who like football and are juniors. All right. Juniors, football. Where do we intersect? We intersect at the 6. So 6 over 60. So you can see it written either way. So that's the joint relative frequency, 0.1 or 10%. Because to be a junior and also like football is a small number of people out of the total 60 that surveyed. Remember that and is important. You're a junior and you like football. You can't be a junior and you like basketball. All right, go ahead and try the next one on your own, number 10. All right, remember, it's intersection over grand total. I know my grand total already is 100. So let's see what my intersection is. We're talking about students who prefer sugar cookies and are seniors. So seniors that prefer sugar cookies, where do those two intersect? At the 15. So I'm going to put that in the numerator. All right. I can't believe I just put that in the calculator. My mind is going crazy. So 15%. All right, and the last one, conditional relative frequency. So use the two-way frequency table below to find the conditional relative frequency. Remember, they're going to give us a condition that a student surveyed prefers baseball given that the student is a junior. You notice that I coughed that word given very loudly. Given that the student is a junior. I want you to star that because this is the condition and that is important. Okay, so remember my little formula here is intersection over condition total. All right, so I already know my condition is junior, right? Because it said given the student is a junior. So let's go ahead and get my condition total. My junior total is 18. I'm just looking at the juniors. So if I'm just looking at the juniors, I know my condition total is 18, and then the other variable they give us is that they prefer baseball, which is represented by this 9. So I've got my two numbers because I just looked at juniors because that was my condition. So 9 over 18. Intersection, because this was the intersection between juniors and baseball, I got 9, and then my condition total is 18. So 9 over 18 is 0.5, which is the same thing as 50%. All right. Go ahead and try number 12 on your own. All right, use the two-way frequency table below to find the conditional relative frequency that a student surveyed as a senior, given that student prefers chocolate chip cookies. So tell me what you think the condition is first. All right. I hope you say given that the student prefers chocolate chip cookies is the condition. All right, so we know intersection over condition total. So my condition is chocolate chip cookies, so that's the only thing I'm going to look at. So looking at this, my total for chocolate chip cookies is 50, so that's going to go on the bottom. And then we're talking about seniors. So my number with seniors and chocolate chip, my intersection is 20. All right, so 20 divided by 50 gives you 0.4, which is 40%. That is it.